You know that hyper white, perfectly straight smile we see plastered on every billboard, Instagram ad, and movie screen? We treat it like it's this ultimate, unquestionable biological truth of health and purity, right? Well, what if I told you that for most of human history, the ultimate symbol of beauty, wealth, and profound civilization wasn't a pristine white smile at all? It was pitch black. Seriously. So our teeth have layers. The dense outer layer above the gum line is the enamel. Now, it's the hardest substance in the human body, but here's the secret. Enamel is actually completely translucent. It basically acts like a glass refractive lens. Beneath that lies the dentin, which is a softer, highly porous tissue that naturally has this yellowish or brownish hue to it. As we age, our enamel naturally thins out just from normal chewing, so getting yellower teeth over a normal lifespan is just human biology. Meaning that Hollywood white smile we idolize today, it's basically a biological fiction. It breaks down into three main mechanisms. First, you've got genetic factors, like your enamel thickness, which dictates how much of that underlying yellow shows through. Then you have extrinsic dietary factors, like eating way too much refined sucrose. That feeds bacteria in your mouth, they excrete lactic acid, and that leads to deep necrotic blackening and rot. Bad news. But look at that third category, extrinsic chemical discoloration. This is the intentional application of iron-based dyes to form a pitch-black protective seal completely over the tooth. So one is a destructive biological failure, and the other is an advanced intentional chemical armor. In ancient Rome, they desperately wanted white teeth, and to get them, they literally used fermented human and animal urine as a bleaching agent. The decomposing urine created ammonia, which was super effective at lifting stains from the porous enamel. The Romans actually taxed urine collection because it was so economically valuable. Meanwhile, over in ancient Japan, they developed something called kanamizu, deliberately sealing the enamel with iron acetate and tannins to turn it pitch black. The irony here is just fantastic. Both the East and the West possessed highly advanced empirical chemistry, but they deployed it to achieve totally opposing aesthetic goals. We see the very first traces of it way back in the Kofun era, around 300 CE. By the Heian period, it had become this very formal coming-of-age rite for aristocrats passing through puberty. But then, during the politically chaotic Sengoku period, it shifted to military commanders and the samurai class. For a samurai, this deep, unalterable black color symbolized absolute, unwavering feudal loyalty. Later, an Ohaguro became the ultimate symbol of mature fidelity for married women, widows, and geisha. But listen, Ohaguro wasn't just some decorative makeup. This was cutting-edge prophylactic medicine. Check out the process for making this kanemizu dye. First, you dissolve iron filings in vinegar or sake. You let that oxidize for a few days, then mix it with tea or sumac tannins. Next, you literally prime the teeth with slightly acidic pomegranate peel. When that iron acetate hits the tannic acid, bam! A rapid chemical reaction occurs. It turns pitch black and becomes completely insoluble in water. They were effectively lacquering their teeth, creating this impenetrable barrier over the enamel. It was an incredibly advanced empirical sealant that protected the porous dentin underneath from bacterial acid attacks and periodontal disease. Now, while Japan's motivations were really tied up in loyalty and marital status, the broader Southeast Asian and Oceanic regions were driven by something entirely different: animist ontology. In many of these cultures, to leave your teeth naturally white meant you were basically viewed as an untamed animal. So blackening and modifying your teeth was this essential civilizing act. It physically marked your transition from a wild state of nature into a structured, cultured, adult human society. Let's look at Vietnam's tradition, known as nhuộm den. Unlike Japan's daily lacquer, this was a grueling, highly painful, multi-day chemical ordeal. You'd start by sanitizing a mouth, then aggressively etch the enamel for days using lemon juice and rice wine. During this week-long etching process, you were only consuming liquids through a straw. Finally, they'd apply a sticky aphid resin mixed with soot, bonding it permanently with an iron and copper mordant. The result? A lustrous, blue-black finish that could last for 20 to 30 years. When Western observers eventually arrived in Asia, they frequently and sloppily confused two completely different practices. On one hand, you have the intentional chemical lacquering we've just been discussing. On the other hand, you have betel nut chewing. This is just a casual, daily social habit that naturally results in irregular red, brown, and eventually black staining over years of use. Westerners saw darkened teeth and just lazily conflated a highly deliberate, sophisticated chemical ceremony with a daily chewing habit. Let's look at the bigger aesthetic picture. Mastering Edo period aesthetics was all about mastering extreme, striking colors. The pitch black teeth didn't exist in a vacuum. They were meant to contrast sharply with oshiroi, a stark white powder applied to the whole face. Then you had hikimayu, the practice of entirely shaving off the eyebrows. This was done to widen the face and deliberately hide your emotional expressions. Finally, the sasabeni, painting the lower lip a glowing, iridescent green by layering incredibly expensive red dye over an undercoat of soot. Mastering these elaborate contrasting colors wasn't just about looking pretty, it was the absolute pinnacle of elegance, immense wealth, and supreme emotional control for women of that era. Pivoting sharply to the West now. During the Tudor era, the astronomical cost of imported colonial sucrose turned sugar into the ultimate flex of wealth. The aristocracy just flooded their mouths with it. This caused aggressive, deep, necrotic tooth decay. Elizabeth's rotting pitch-black teeth literally became a twisted billboard advertising her extreme affluence to the world. The lower classes couldn't actually afford the real sugar to rot their teeth naturally. They literally rubbed fireplace soot and crushed charcoal onto their perfectly healthy teeth just to fake sugar rot of the aristocracy. It just goes to show that people will literally go to astonishing lengths to bypass the financial barriers of elite aesthetics. Which brings us to the modern era. Westerners fundamentally equated their own white teeth with modernity and health, and they viewed the protective black dye as primitive and barbaric. British diplomat Rutherford Alcock famously and very derisively described Japanese women's mouths as open sepulchres that were preeminent in artificial ugliness. Desperate to modernize, the Meiji government legally banned Ohaguro in 1870. The absolute final blow came in 1873, when Empress Shoken deliberately appeared in public with unpainted white teeth. That sent a signal to the entire nation that this centuries-old tradition was officially over. But the hyper-white ideal we know and obsess over today, that wasn't even invented until 1928, when California dentist Dr. Charles Pincus created the very first acrylic dental veneers specifically for actors to wear during close-up film shoots. By the 1950s, this cinematic illusion, the Hollywood smile, was broadcast globally. It effectively colonized the world's beauty standards, transforming a literal Hollywood movie prop into an objective, mandatory standard of human health. Wild, right? But history always has a funny way of coming full circle. Today, modern Asian American and Pacific Islander artists, dancers, and musicians are actively reclaiming their extinguished heritage. They are destabilizing these deeply entrenched Eurocentric beauty standards by transforming a heavily pathologized history right into cutting-edge high fashion. The very next time you look in the mirror to brush or whiten your teeth, I want you to genuinely ask yourself a question. Are your daily beauty routines truly driven by absolute biology and health? Or are they simply a byproduct of cultural hegemony, Hollywood illusions, and shifting geopolitical power?